Eagles 38, Giants 20. Welcome to Giants Nation. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, the Football Grump. And the Giants have lost again. They hadn't won in Philadelphia since 2013. That streak continues. The Giants hadn't swept the Eagles since 2007. That streak continues. They fall to 2-6. Cam Skattebo is done for the year with a broken or a dislocated ankle. I'm really confused on what that means, if that's just a fancy word for broken, but his ankle was turning backwards, so I'm just going to assume, even though I don't like to assume with injuries, he's done. The Giants here, I want to read you this stat before we go into talking about it all, Grump. The Giants' first half of the season since 2017 going backwards, the first 8 games of the year. 2-6, 2-6, 2-6, 6-2, 1-7, 2-6, 1-7, 1-7. This is technically, in the last 9 seasons, tied for the second best start. They're bad. They're injured now, and I'm fairly tired of deciphering of what type of bad it is. Right? It's just they're just flat out bad, and bad teams find ways to lose games.
Well, I mean, I guess if I have to classify the smell of this turd, it would be, hopeful, right? There are definitely major pieces that are pointing in the right direction. I certainly feel like even going into this game, they come away with this game like they came into it limping. They came out completely battered and bruised. But it does feel like with a player like Jaxson Dart that they have a chance to win most games that they go into, even if the roster is at a disadvantage or just isn't as good as who they're going up against. It does feel that way. Nevertheless, this is an annoying conversation to have. Regarding Skattebo, a dislocated ankle. First of all, you can't break an ankle because an ankle is a location, not a bone. So you either break a bone in your leg or the top of your foot. I had a similar injury.
Backwards. It was just backwards. That's all I know, which means
well, here's the thing.
Season.
I had a similar injury in high school where my foot was sideways, and it is typically it's just a break, which means it could just be 6 to 8 weeks. But with a dislocation, there's a higher chance of some kind of tendon or ligament damage. He went in for surgery already, according to tweets that I saw, I believe, from Dan Duggan.
Dan Salmon, yeah.
Okay. So I think that this might be just like a clean broken bone that just looks really disgusting, but more or less is just a broken bone. Regardless, even if he's back in 8 weeks or something and the season's still going on, I don't really see a purpose in having him play. So I would think he's done for the year.
Yeah. And dude, that just sucks because Cam Skattebo has kind of become, even though Jaxson Dart is the most fun player on the team right now, Cam Skattebo has been a close second. He had 3 runs for 12 yards today, a catch for 18 yards and a touchdown. And before that touchdown, dude, like sometimes I'll jot notes down on paper while I'm watching the game. And usually as the game gets going on, I stop doing that because I get just way more focused in on the game. And one of mine is like, geez, this guy doesn't go down, right? Because there was like a 2-yard run. And I go away till I kind of look away from the screen, and he's just keeps his feet churning and turns it into a 5-yard run. I was like, geez, this dude never goes down. He has the receiving touchdown on the post wheel where the defensive end drops in coverage, and he like that's just playmaking type of stuff where, he had a second receiving touchdown in 2 weeks. And then it's just like, and just in true Giants fashion, that's what happens. It's like, oh, look at this guy who's fun. He's, flexing at the New York Knicks games. He's getting on, front pages of newspapers at Knicks
New
games.
Grill.
He's running through people. Yeah, he's got a freaking grill that was like, made me start looking at, some stuff at the jewelry store, like as a 33-year-old man inspired by this kid. Like it was just, it was like, oh, dude, this kid is sick. Like we're talking about like, hey, there was red flags coming out of Arizona State on his scouting report when we watched him, but it's like this guy just breaks tackles. He's fun, and it translated to the NFL. And of course, in New York Giants fashion, his ankle is turning backwards in the first half of the season.
Yeah, just a freak play too. Sucks. And it seems like it's the only way he's ever going to get hurt. It's just like a freak play like that. He's really one of those players that is going to be the engine for this offense, even if it's not going to be, an explosive playmaking thing that opposing defenses are afraid of, they're still scheming to stop him because he is so difficult to bring down. You can't just scheme up a defense in run support where one guy gets free and makes a tackle on Cam Skattebo. It has to be a collective team effort to stop the run around him, which if you have teams scheming things around your one player, then he's an important part of your offense, right? And that seems like a silly duh moment, but he's not like this explosive playmaker that you typically think of as somebody that, opposing defenses are incredibly worried about. But that's who he is, because he's an engine for this offense. They continue to find ways to get him the ball in situations where he can thrive. And sometimes that's between the tackles where, like you said, he gets stopped for 2 yards and then spins out of it and goes for another 3. So now you're looking at 2nd and 5 instead of 2nd and 7. It completely changes your playbook. You have to commit more guys to just bringing him down as you get frustrated. Then they just bring him out on like a rail route, like on a wheel route where he just sheds the guy. I don't even remember. Was that Nakobe Dean? I'm not sure.
No, that one was I can't remember the guy. It was the outside linebacker where he lined up as a defensive end. They blitz and drop him in man coverage. And
he pulled a swim move on him.
Yeah, which was really in the moment. That route is, supposed to be a wheel, like you said. And he says, oh, well, this defensive end is just bailing. And he's playing all right, I'm just going to transition up and in. Dart sees what Skattebo does, and they score a touchdown. Some playmaking from both of those guys when it doesn't go exactly how you drew it up on paper. So, yeah, it just sucks to lose him because I think leadership and all that stuff and energy is a part of the game. At the end of the day, the Giants overall, I think, are an untalented roster that lacks depth. I think they're poorly coached. I don't believe in what the Giants as a whole are selling. But one of those things I did believe in, man, is Dart and Skattebo are bringing some type of new energy, and there's something to say for these two guys being you know what, screw it. We don't lose. We don't play to lose. I'm not getting acclimated to losing in the NFL. And that, as the season goes to 2-5 and 2-6, hey, I'm not letting that rub off on me. And I think it does hurt them personally more so than just the play on the field that Skattebo brings. I think it helps the offensive line when you see that guy doing that. It brings, helps you become a better run blocker when he's doing those sort of things. But
well, absolutely. So I mean, you could see that the wind came out of the sails the moment he went down. The collective, obviously every time a player has a really bad injury, there's a gathering around him, whatever. But there is something different about him going down, and I think that him and Dart are two kids that, like you said, they're not going to be okay with losing. They don't give up on plays in their own respective ways. Jaxson Dart extends plays in the pocket, refuses to go down, keeps his eyes downfield, and throws down, keeps the play alive. And to his own credit, Cam Skattebo does the same thing while running the ball. He's not going to just go down because somebody hit him. He is going to hit back as hard as he can. And they have that similar mentality, and I think it does permeate to the rest of the offense. And then when the offense scores points, that permeates to the defense. And there's a certain level of physicality that both of those guys bring, certainly more Skattebo than Dart, and that physicality, I think, permeates to the defense as well. So you could see that the wind kind of came out of the sails when he went down. That was a significant blow to the morale.
Yeah, and Tracy said they were kind of all down, and as he's getting carted off, he's yelling "Let's effing go! Win this damn thing!" So let's skip. We hit that. I mean, how are you feeling overall? Because we've now done 6 recaps of losses. One the Broncos game where they choke, and it's just pure anger. There's a loss to the Saints where it's just this is a game you should not lose. You should not be losing to the New Orleans Saints. I don't want to hear about how, no, you shouldn't be losing to the Saints. There's week 1 loss to the Commanders where you get excited all offseason and then you lose. You have the Cowboys where you collapse at the end and give it up. The Chiefs where you have the kicker mishaps. And this felt like the first December loss for me, Grump. And I know we're going to be getting into November, by the next game, but this was the first December loss where I'm just this is who they are, right? Oh, look, that's Corey Black out there starting at corner and Dane Belton at safety and Darius Moas. And I know Moas has been out there the entire year, but it's just oh gosh, this is where it's just yep, just bad team. we go into the week next week it just felt like a December loss. It's not the same because you do have Jaxson Dart and it's a new week every week with him. And Dart didn't play bad in this one either. It certainly had some bad moments, which we'll get into. It's because like that stat I read off where it's 2-6, 2-6, 2-6, 2-6. It's just, this was the most familiar loss where I'm like, I've done this episode a million different times. Refereeing, I did put the ref in the thumbnail, probably a little clickbaitish. But they did do a terrible job. I don't think they make a difference, and we could get to that in a couple of seconds. But like, where are you just overall, like after that game, Grump?
Well, so in a sense, I agree with you, right? Where it feels like a December loss, because now, whatever hope you have for this team getting better or turning a corner or entering a new era, that's all fine and dandy. But going into this season that the excitement level is only one layer deep. When you start sustaining significant injuries and they start packing up, that the depth on this team is not good enough to overcome that. And it started with Malik Neighbors. It was surprising, but that's the thing that like Jaxson Dart can kind of overcome, right? He's done a great job of spreading the ball around and not, forcing the entire load of the game onto another player. And then it steamrolls from there. The defense starts getting, the entire defensive backfield is in the hospital right now. You have Cam Skattebo goes down. That became like the new engine to your offense. So at some point, Daniel Bellinger left this game. You're relying on 2 tight end sets a lot in this game. So yeah, I mean, you get to this point and you're like, well, I know they're not this good. You know what I mean? They're not good enough to overcome these obstacles. They're good enough to come into any game and compete at a starter level only. And then from there, it's just going to be an uphill battle. They're not better than that. So it doesn't invoke the same level of feeling. To me, like the hopelessness that comes after a New Orleans Saints loss, like that is the worst. Then shortly after that is the shit the bed games against Dallas and Denver, where you're like, you had it right there, and you let it go because of this one issue here or this one issue there, which is incredibly infuriating. And then above that is like, I don't know if that's maybe I get more mad about the kicker thing than anything because it's so fucking avoidable. But yeah, I mean this one almost falls onto like the lethargy kind of level where it's just like, I'm just tired now.
Well, and they run the ball for 300 yards, and that's like been the issue we've talked about for 4 or 5 years. That's just kind of where I'm at. Like, obviously, like it's pretty clear my point of view on Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. I think they should be fired. This game isn't changing that for anything, but like I'm also at a point where I was like, prove me wrong, right? So like to get me back on your side, you can't do that in 1 week or 2 week, right? That's got to be a multiple week process. And it's just like, all right, well, we're not going to hit that this year. So it's like, then we're talking about firing. It's just like, this is normal New York Giants football over the last, 10 to 15 years, essentially. Where it's just like, yep, bad overall. The roster's not great. And then when that roster that's not great gets a little bit injured or moderately injured, then you're really screwed depth-wise. Offensively, you're relying on a rookie quarterback, which has ups and downs. Your receiving room's banged up. Like that's New York Giants football. Let's talk about the refs. I put them in the thumbnail, and I do want to talk about it. That's where, if there's where any anger comes from in me in this game, it's that. And I will say that I don't think if the referees just called a perfect game, I do not think the Giants win this game. Hell, I don't even think it's anything more than a 10-point game.
Yeah, they still lose by 2 scores.
But it's still terrible, right? Because the tush push one is infuriating. The Slayton one is also infuriating, but because they had a bad call on what should have been a Dart fumble 2 plays away, I can't get too overly angry about that one. But the Kayvon one is just flat out incompetence, right? Like Kayvon said it afterwards. The tush push sucks, okay? Because if they don't get it on the first push, the referees keep that play alive and allow them to get it on the second push, right? And then so they get it on the first push, and the referees blow the whistle, which again, the ball was fumbled after they blew the whistle. And like the ball's clearly fumbled. It was not one of these plays, Grump, where, the people watching on YouTube, you guys see where, the guy's on top of the pile, he reaches out, the ball's out, and then somebody, like, as the play is clearly over, come and snap and pops the body armor bottle out of your hand. It was very clear, like within the action of reaching out, Kayvon pops the ball out, recovers it, and the refs just never gave them the opportunity to make that play because they assume that it's a first down. So as soon as they see that it's a first down and forward motion is like either stopping or beginning to stop, they just they blow the whistle because they've got accumulated to calling this play first down Eagles, first down Eagles, first down Eagles, first down Eagles. And when, again, like I said, like I said and Kayvon said, like if they don't get it on the first push, they don't call no forward progress. They allow them to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to eventually get that first down. So I hate I hate the 10 owners who were too pansy to ban this in the offseason because they felt like they were weak if they banned it or whatever. It's going to get banned this offseason. We won't have to play the Eagles again to get we'll never have to watch that. We'll never be frustrated personally against that unless we're, hate watching them in the playoffs. But that's just incompetence from the referee. And his name is Brad Rogers, by the way, which I usually don't look up the name, but I had to put him in the thumbnail.
That play is infuriating because you're right. So you don't get the act of the forward progress was interrupted by the fumble. So, and it's the tush push to me is a legitimate football play in that it's basically a rugby scrum and whatever, but it is pretty clear that they are not able to properly officiate the play. And I understand the benefit of saying that forward progress should not be challengeable or whatever, but it's just the semantics of football are so infuriating sometimes where it's like we watch a replay, we can clearly see that it's a fumble and that forward progress is not actually stopped, but because of the rules, it doesn't matter what we can clearly see and we all agree on. It's just that's how the play goes. It's just so silly. Like what the hell are we doing?
And Daboll rage challenged that, by the way, too, right? And
which I don't agree with. Like, you can't let your emotions just make you lose the time. Like, it didn't matter at the end, but that's just one of those things. You got to control yourself because that's just wasting a challenge.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with you 100%. You can't, like, he did waste the challenge, right? They explained to him. I even came on, like, we explained to him that it can't be challenged, and then he came and challenged it again, and it was like a rage challenge. But that's where me in the emotions of the game, I'm like, yeah, screw it, dude. Just challenge, like make a example out of it. It's like I agree with you at the end of the day. Like you can't let your emotions get in the way where you just rage challenge something that you're not going to get overturned. But also, like I was just as pissed off. I'm like, good, make them sit there and like make these stupid ass referees sit there and review it for 5 more minutes. Make them,
make them watch it. Yeah, I get you.
So other ones like the Corey Black defensive pass interference that added 3 points to the Eagles was terrible with a wide receiver just basically grabs Corey Black with one hand, throws him past. And I saw that. I was shocked because I thought they were going to punt and I went to go type something. I can't take a note or whatever. And I was like, wait a second, Eagles first down. Like I thought for sure they were going to call offensive pass interference. And then the Slayton touchdown that they took away, right? Like that's a BS OPI. I'm not going to say that one swung the game because Dart did fumble 2 plays earlier.
Oh, 100%. And that one's crazy because they actually had to review that because it was ruled a fumble on the field and they overturned it.
So and again, even if that doesn't happen, do the Giants win? Most likely not. But at least the Kayvon one, that was huge, right? Like that, that's a tie game at that point, right? That could swing momentum, and that can make a difference. The Giants had a lot of mistakes. Their run defense got pushed in. It was soft. We talked about how in the preview pod, how the Giants brought the physicality in that Thursday night game, and the Eagles, I'm sure, remember that and are going to try and bring it back. Well, they won that round where they just were way more physical than the Giants, and we'll get into all that. One thing is it just felt like the Giants weren't hungry enough. And I think part of that was that to their credit, they're well fed because the New York Giants sometimes like to eat at Candlewyck Diner, which is 5 minutes down the road of MetLife Stadium. Candlewyck Diner is the best diner in New Jersey, and it's in Rutherford, New Jersey. Next week is Giants 49ers. I know that the Cranky fan and his wife is a 49ers fan, so that's the Cranky Family Bowl. They've got to do something. I'm sure they share a bank account because they're husband and wife, but like loser has to, pay for the Candlewyck Diner.
I think they do. They usually have some kind of thing. It's usually a bar tab or something like that. But yeah,
I think I met Cranky wife at Candlewyck Diner after the Bucks game last year. I think that was the first time. Actually, no, met her in the tailgate in the morning, and then we reconvened for dinner after the game. Also, I booked my trip for the game in December, and it was like, as much as the Giants suck, I'm kind of like getting ready to get back in that New Jersey area, get some Candlewyck Diner when we get there, and I'm sure I'll get a couple of times. I go there. My go-to is the omelets, all different kinds. The pesto is one of my favorites. I know you like the steak sandwich, Grump, but they are not just day one supporters of Giants Nation show. They're day one supporters of Bobby Skinner. They jumped on early when we were just building. They catered the 2021 Fan Fest, like really A1s from day ones. They've supported us. So, go show them some love in the chat. If you're in the area, go to Candlewyck Diner, support them because they are truly the best.
They have the classic giant book menu, and I've tried about 15 different things. I try to try something new every time I go there, and I'm never disappointed. Even, I'm not a big dessert person. Got dessert there too, and it was excellent. You can't go wrong going to Candlewyck Diner, which is not something I can say for every diner in New Jersey. Hands down, best diner in New Jersey.
Candlewyck Diner. You'd be glad you did.
Glad you did.
What do you want to hit next?
I think it's imperative we hit the defense, especially the run defense.
Yeah, I know we're kind of mixing and matching in this game where we usually go like full offense then full defense. I mean, it was just pathetic, and it's all levels of the defense, from the defensive line to the linebackers to the DBs. 30 carries for 278 yards, right? Like they averaged 9.3 yards per carry. Both running backs, Saquon Barkley and Tanks Bigsby, had over 100 rushing yards. System running backs? I don't know. They had a first down run on 2nd and 31. It's unbelievable how much 2nd and long is like a death threat for the New York Giants. Like there's coordinators get remembered for certain tendencies. Like what will it be for Shane Bowen? The end of game conservative approach or the 2nd and longs that turn the first downs?
I can't even believe that Shedeur Sanders takes a 20-yard sack and then they just get a first down the next play.
I can't believe Shedeur Sanders is on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, after that play, Jalen Hurts really looked like Shedeur Sanders.
There you
That's
go.
the point I'm making, yeah.
Good save. Okay.
That's not a save. That was the joke I was making. Yeah, no, that was a ridiculous sack. I mean, he just kept going backwards. And I'm like, oh, man, you walk yourself right into a punt there. And that's like a get manageable play. And instead they get like 35 yards on it. It's pathetic.
That's just typical. It's generally typical Shane Bowen, though, where it's just like they get so like they like the line like, oh, well, this definitely won't be a run play or a draw play. So our linebackers are going to bail. I can't remember which holding penalty it was, but the Giants got 1st and 20 or the Eagles got 1st and 20. I don't think it was the Abdul Carter holding penalty that was drawn on Lane Johnson. But like they have an 8-yard run the next play, 2nd and 12. And then they get a screen pass that gets converted where the linebackers are like at 15 yards of depth when the ball is thrown. Where it's like, dude, why don't you like at least show some level of like, hey, we're not going to give you the easy throws to get back into manageable situations. So it's the run defense just stinks, right? The defensive tackles sucked in this game. They got double teamed all game long. The edge rushers, right? Like the last Eagles game, there was an emphasis on like, hey, play the run on the way to the quarterback. Play the run to the quarterback. That was not the case from their defensive ends in this game, which again is coaching, right? They were able to do it in that game 2 weeks ago. That is coaching. The defensive tackles sucked. Outside of Dexter Lawrence, who again is playing at a really good level, not elite. And then the linebackers are slow. Moasau stinks. And then Tyler Nubin freaking gives up a 65-yard run where it's just like he gets downhill and then he's just like, he's lost his confidence as a run defender where he gets downhill and he should continue downhill, right?
Right.
Make a play on Saquon Barkley and he stops it. Like you said, he stops his feet where if he just continues that play, he may still miss the tackle, but he gives himself no chance when he stops his feet worrying about it. Dane Belton had a similar play earlier, right? And then the corners just flat out outside of Drew Phillips, who wasn't making many plays in this game, suck in run defense. Obviously when Cordell Flott went out, which is crazy to think that Cordell Flott going out of the game at 160 pounds hurts their run defense. But like Banks, to his credit, did not give up outside contain in this game. But that also is like when he doesn't give out outside contain, he doesn't know how to play. Like he's not playing with any physicality to try and squeeze a wide receiver down. That run at the end of the game where Tanks Bigsby's running through 10 guys and they can't bring him down. Go watch Deonte Banks on that play. He's just sitting there watching the entire time. Like he doesn't want to play with physicality. They got the message to him. Like, hey, don't jump inside. Stop jumping inside. But within that, he's still a bad run defender. Corey Black was obviously really bad at that. The safeties were really bad at it. Like it's just.
Well, Corey Black is put in an impossible situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to blame anything on Corey Black, but like this is where when they say, oh, what's wrong with the run defense? Like, well, it's a lot. It can be a lot. They're actually right. Like they're not as much as the Giants coaches are giving non-answers on like, what's the issue with their run defense? It is all 11. It truly is an all 11 issue. Now, part of that issue starts with they don't have good defensive tackles, right? Joe Schoen was gifted Dexter Lawrence, gifted him. Now, Dre Patterson got the best out of him, but they have done nothing to improve that room, right? They had 1 year where they had Leonard Williams, Ashawn Robinson, then Nacho was the fourth guy where that was a good room. And then they trade Leonard Williams, Ashawn Robinson walks, and they didn't add anybody. This year, they only drafted Darius Alexander. So, like, they don't have anyone there. The linebackers, again, when McFadden went down, that was huge. Not because McFadden is this all-pro linebacker, because now you're going to Darius Moasau, who's slow and doesn't play with good instincts. Okereke has played bad all year long. And then all your corners lack physicality, ability to tackle, and run game IQ.
Yeah, I think the infuriating thing is from a coaching standpoint, I'm not really sure what you do to coach physicality or, like you said, you can get
more aggressive though. Like you can bring more identity to the run defense. I do think it's more of a personnel issue, but also coaching goes into that. But when because they didn't have Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland, they went into this game, which is Shane Bowen's MO, with a conservative approach. Like, hey, let's stay high in two safety looks. Right. Don't give them the ability to create the big play. Let's not get Deonte Banks one-on-one. Let's, we don't trust. Both of our safeties are now are below average players in Nubin and Belton. Let's play this one safe. And the fact that Cordell Flott, as good as he's been, loses the matchup to Devontae Smith. And that's not a shot at Flott. That's just a reality. Devontae Smith is a better player than Cordell Flott, especially when he's the guy that's going to be left with that one-on-one responsibility.
From a personnel issue, what you can complain about for sure is that there's just an over-reliance on drafted players and young players to be the depth. Like, I'm frustrated to see that you can't just add like vet minimum guys that are short tacklers and, probably the best of their athleticism is behind them, but you're not getting veterans to be the playmakers. You're getting them to fill out the back end of your roster. So when your playmakers go down, you have guys that can just make tackles. I mean, you think back to when Fabian Moreau was added super late in the year, late in the summer, and how much he made a difference for that team. He was just starting corner for that team.
Yeah.
Moves like that really could be done, but instead you have,
they haven't done any of that this year. Like
no, not at all. I mean, you're talking about like Art Green and Nick Jones and Corey Black making significant impacts in the depth here. It just shouldn't be that way.
And we made that point on a recent podcast where it's like year one, they didn't have any money. So it was like the only thing they really had was like, all right, let's shore up, the interior of the O-line a little bit. Let's get a backup quarterback, and then let's draft. They admitted to drafting for need that year. Don't like that. But like the one thing you could praise them year one was like, hey, they've made the most out of the edges, right? Whether it's adding Pinnock, Fabian Moreau, Isaiah Hodgins, and there's a couple other guys that were even missing in there too. They've just stopped they've stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, like who have they added where it's like, this guy can actually be a depth spot at outside corner or be a depth spot at linebacker? Those guys haven't been there, right? It's just like, all right, well, Darius Mosa was one of our draft picks, so of course he's got to be the guy to step up. When the reality is like, they should be looking for linebackers that can play over Darius Mosa, and that's never been considered.
100%.
At corner, right? Like instead of forcing this Cordell Flott versus Deontay Banks, it's like, man, let's go try and find. And again, we're sitting here asking for like starting guys, but like, there's just been no effort. Like waiver wire day, right? They didn't, when they cut down the 53, they did not add anybody who was like, hey, this guy can add to the depth right now, right? Because they added Bo Braid and Rico Payton, who were special teams players. And the Bo Braid example is why they didn't view him as like a third, fourth safety guy, is Javon Holland's injured. They activated Raheem Lane from the practice squad. He was playing over Bo Braid. They didn't bring in anybody in to be wide receiver for. They haven't done. Even Lil Jordan Humphrey, who was on the team, they kept him below Jalen Hyatt, who was inactive today, and Bo Collins, and now he's above both those guys in the depth chart. It was just very much like you said, like, just our young guys got to be that depth. But run game, like Shane Bowen, I want fired specifically in this game. It's not anything new, right? Because again, it was a lot of bad players and a conservative approach against an Eagles while they were banged up. And maybe if they get super aggressive, like maybe Shane Bowen, they get burned even more. And I understand that because like the players let the scheme down too. Like the Dallas Goedert first touchdown was aggressive play call, right? They lined up everybody on the line of scrimmage and the Eagles played literally into the play, right? That's the play they were looking for. They were looking for double slants. And what they did is they had man coverage and then they had the two linebackers drop back into the middle of the field. Well, Tyler Nubin is playing extremely hesitant and conservative on that and playing from off instead of driving on it. He's afraid of getting beat vertically or out where he should be driving on that. And Darius Mosa, who's the inside help there, the reason why Nubin's playing it a little conservative and playing outside leverage, for some reason is just like floating and not actually making a play on the football. There's other examples. Like the field goal drive, one of their field goal drives on a third down, he stunts Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter gets there quickly, hits Jalen Hurts. Deontay Banks gets flat out destroyed in coverage. They run a blitz and Jahan Dotson mosses Corey Black on an underthrown football. So like this is
the Barkley catch for a touchdown too was an aggressive play call.
Yeah, and so somebody messes that up, right? Darius Moasau or Kayvon Thibodeau probably should have been in man coverage there. And at least, so like players also just screwed it up too. So I think, we did an episode on Wednesday saying, should Shane Bowen be fired, and made it clear. Like, I still think so. But this is when you get a mix of a bad defensive coordinator, and now you weren't dealing with great players, and now you're really dealing with like think about this. You can't discount the front four. But like let's just eliminate the front four. And even within that, you have bad players playing at defensive tackle too consistently. Rank the players from your two linebackers, your three corners, and two safeties, right? That's 7 of the 11 starters. Who's number 1 out of that group?
Out of the group who played today?
Yeah.
Probably
after Cordell Flott got injured in this game. So let's say once Cordell Flott gets injured,
then it's got to be Okereke, and that's really it.
Yeah, who's been playing bad. Andrew Phillips is maybe number 2.
Yeah.
Like you're looking at Dane Belton as probably the number 3 player on the second and third level in the second half of this game. Then you're going to Nubin, Moasau, Deontay Banks, and Corey Black. Like that's tough to freaking work with.
It is,
And
but at the same time, and again, I hate to make these back-to-back comparisons because I don't necessarily want Wink Martindale back, but just in terms of just having the balls to run your defense, Wink Martindale is going to keep running the Wink Martindale defense when guys get hurt. Period.
agreed.
Full stop.
Yep.
Shane Bowen, you can't crawl into this shell of like, don't let him beat us over top, because what happens is Saquon Barkley just runs for 65 yards for a touchdown right in your face because you're just playing that far off and you're just playing like a pussy. Just play your defense. Just do what you do.
Yep, and that's what I'm saying though. Like you've got this mix of bad defensive coordinator and now really bad players, right? You go from not a great and this is a conversation we've had a little bit, is where it's like I am anti Shane Bowen, but I'm also not going to sit here and say if they had a better defensive coordinator, this defense would be thriving as a top 5, top 8 unit. Like I think it would max out as the 12th, 13th best defense where this pass rush really gets after it.
Yeah, I would say at best the right defensive coordinator makes the most out of this pass rush, and they cover up a lot of the deficiencies in the back end.
Yeah, exactly. And they get some good turnover, not luck, but like good turnover production and things that go with being aggressive. So, and again, dude, I want to talk individually on we've kind of hit on Newman, right? We don't need to say much. It's just he's gotten so much. Again, he was not a world beater last year, but he was a competent player last year, right? Like the missed angles and stuff like that. It makes you remember the couple that he had last year, but it was not like this overwhelming issue, right? In fact, he was playing well in the box. He was a good run defender, and man coverage, he did a very good job last year. And this year, he looks like a terrible football player. He did like I probably said this line 5 times already in the last month, Grump, but I was like, people overrated last year's rookie class, starting with the people in the Giants building. But guys actually did regress, right? Like, I think when people talk about Deonte Banks, like, man, he regressed from his rookie year. I'm like, I don't think so. I think his rookie year was severely overrated. But, like, Newman has regressed. Drew Phillips has regressed. We didn't see Drew Phillips in this game because the Eagles flat out never use a slot receiver with Jalen Hurts. They've never done it. But they've just, like, Newman has lost all confidence to play that safety position, and he with his skill, his talent, where he's a little slower, he's a little like he's got to be playing with confidence and aggression.
Oh, 100%.
And he's lost that, and now it's just turned him into a flat out bad safety. Dude, we're 37 minutes in, and we haven't really talked about Jaxson Dart.
I think we can flip to the offense at this point. I don't really have any other defensive.
I do want to give some flowers to Abdul Carter because he played really well in this game, and I think it was because, and you know what I'm doing right now?
Stalling.
I'm pulling up the Tyler Newman PPP because this is where I have something, and I think it was because like he played so well because he's like, in Philly, WFAN had a clip about me saying I'm not doing much, and I'm hydrated thanks to Body Armor. This episode is brought to you by Body Armor Sports Drink. Rewrite your routine and choose better with Body Armor. Body Armor is real hydration with electrolytes, coconut water, and no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners with great tasting flavors like strawberry, banana, and orange mango. Body Armor will level up your hydration game. Grab Body Armor Sports Drink today at your local grocery store. Body Armor. Choose better. You'd be glad you did.
Be glad you did. I had a 6-hour drive today that I would not have been able to make without stopping for Body Armor, and I had Blackout Berry. First time I saw that flavor, it was awesome.
Oh wow! So I was also had to drive today for about an hour and a half. That's why we didn't do a live before the game, and I stopped at Orange World. And I said, I went in there. You sons of bitches need to turn this into Orange Mango World. And they looked at me like, yeah, you're right, because Body Armor is the best. All right, Jaxson Dart. I can't believe we kind of spent so much time not talking about Jaxson Dart. Part of that is because I want to do the full Jaxson Dart thing on the mailbag because of his play style, you do have to do a little bit of watch the film, bro. But you saw kind of the good and bad of Jaxson Dart of his play style right now. You didn't see any like terrible, right? And that's good. Like as much as it wouldn't have made a difference. I do like that they were down and not totally out of this game, and we didn't see Jaxson Dart disaster. And that fumble play, it's a bad play, but that isn't like Jaxson Dart losing his mind disaster. So like that's a positive. But he was a benefit and a negative of the way that he plays, right? Where he's looking to make plays and he's holding onto the ball and running around. His stat line, 14 of 24, 193 yards, a touchdown, 5 sacks, 6 runs, 17 yards, and a touchdown. He made, again, some really big boy plays in this one, right? The touchdown drive where Skattebo had the touchdown. He had nice quick passes to Slayton on that one. The Skattebo throw was a really good one, really good decision. He also extended that with a runaround play, right? Where they even did the timer on TV where it was like 8 seconds and he got an 8-yard throw to Slayton.
We also threw Jaxson Hunt to the ground on that play.
Yeah, where like that was one of those plays like, all right, here comes the sack. Nope, here comes the sack. Nope, and then he throws the ball. And then, they were down 14-7, and you have a 3rd down and 10. He throws a dot to Theo Johnson. A perfect pass. That would have had them in the low red zone, down 7, 1st down, and they've been good in the red zone with Dart. And and Theo Johnson drops it, and you kick a field goal, and you're down 4, which, that's not the end of the game, but 14-14 is so much different than 14-10. There's other, like that 15-play, 59-yard field goal drive. Like, he had a Theo play where he, 3rd down, fired in, created another one where he ran around. That Singletary throw on 3rd down was a bad throw. Singletary made up for it. And then he had a sack on 3rd down that wasn't his fault. He was sacked 5 times. 2, I think, were the O-line's fault. And then, he had another, run around through the 4th down touchdown to Slayton that didn't count. Like, that was a great throw. Good play by Slayton on that one. But when my rewatch, I went and looked at, all right, where the creation plays, what did you have from it, right? Where he's holding onto the ball for a long time, looking for it. I counted 5 good plays on it, right? 4 bad, and then 3, I don't know, got to watch the film to see if anybody was open, but it was a negative result on the play, whether I think one was a 1-yard run and then like 2 incomplete passes. So that's one of those things is like Dart grows, in his rookie season. It's like, I'd like to see him make the plays, lean into that. He can't play like that forever. It's not sustainable to play like that forever. Eventually, you got to just have a better understanding of what the defense is, getting it out on time and making plays, and then that creation on top of that. But you saw the good where the playmaking, saw some of the bad where, did create some negative sacks in this game. But I mean, what was your thoughts overall on Dart today?
Yeah, so there's a couple where it looked like some guys were, and again, like the broadcast angle is just not good enough. That's just not
sometimes some of the bad ones were because they showed a replay with the ultimate team, like, oh, yep,
correct.
This is where this should have went.
Yeah, and it looks like on some of them there's somebody open early, and perhaps a bust in the line is upcoming and his eyes are dropped, or he just doesn't see it, or whatever. But I do think that the most encouraging thing from Jaxson Dart is that we are seeing week-to-week progress. And it's difficult sometimes to remember that he's absolutely out ahead of his skis in terms of his progress thus far, at least as far as what I expected out of him. And we're seeing week-to-week progress, right? Like, even, for example, this isn't throwing the ball, but like, how much were we concerned about him just taking unnecessary hits because he refuses to slide? And in this game, that just didn't happen, right? Like, he goes around, runs for a 1st down, knows exactly where the marker is, and goes down
right at the line.
Right, exactly. And doesn't take a hit on that play. We are seeing the week-to-week things, and he is that guy who is just going to keep working hard and learning from his mistakes. So that's really encouraging for me. So I think that it's hard to keep in check that he's way ahead of his progress and where I expected him to be, and that I have, that encouraging feeling that things will get better. But for sure, there's a little bit too much of the dancing around. And sometimes when he's extending plays, he's dropping his eyes too early and walking away from some stuff. And again, like, he was let down too. Theo Johnson's drop is incredibly frustrating. Darius Slayton on a slant had a really frustrating drop as well. I think at times the offensive line failed him, and that maybe got into his head a little bit too much, where he started to bail out on things a little bit earlier than he needed to instead of just keeping his eyes downfield. He's also working with kind of shit. Like you add a Malik Neighbors to this.
Goes down.
Yeah, but you add a Malik Neighbors to this, and there's going to be some plays where he's one-on-one. I'm throwing to that. Period. End of story. You always have that in your back pocket. One-on-one Neighbors. I can always go there in an emergency. Where that's going to eliminate some of the madness, scrambliness. We've been saying going into this year that they need another wide receiver to couple with Malik Neighbors anyway. So that all adds into it as well. And there was one other thing I was going to say. Damn it. Yeah, I don't know. There was one other thing about Dart that I was encouraged by, but I'll think of it eventually.
We're going to do this every week, talking about Jaxson Dart. And the mailbag will be about, in the film review, we'll be able to talk individually about what each game was. But if you're looking for progress, it was no fourth quarter meltdown. So that's good. Again, I know the fumble got hit, but he didn't have any balls that landed in DB's hands, which is good. Like you said, the sliding and stuff did a good job avoiding contact. It's just he's gonna have the sacks, right? Coming into this game, he had been sacked 12 times. He was accredited for 10 of them. 10 of them being his fault. If what I think matches, it will now be 13 of 17. That is a lot. That's flat out terrible, right? That's not to be disguised as good, but he's also making plays, right? Sometimes guys get like that and they're not making plays out of it. He is. He's able to extend drives. And if it's the end of year 2 and that's continuing, then yeah, it's all right, that was a red flag that continued. But right now, I want him to continue to play like that as he grows. He's got to grow, but I do want him to play like that. Where I don't want him to where I'm not going to be oh, well, he's just a rookie, is end of game just chucking it, right? You don't need to be a third-year vet to know not to do that. You don't need to be a third-year vet to know when and when not it's okay to take contact. And then other stuff is all right, you're either going to grow from this or you're not, but you're a rookie, and I'm not expecting you to have all of this down 100%. Then the deep ball, this was his best, most accurate. That's another thing. It was the deep ball's been inaccurate in his first 4 games. This was the most accurate it was. The only inaccurate one was the
Singletary
one, and he caught that one. The rest of them were accurate. The first Slayton one, I know, because Slayton had a drop in this game and has a career drops. That's just kind of throwing up, make a play on third down. If it happens, not if it does. If it happens, awesome. If it doesn't, that's the end of the drive, and that's better than a check down.
One thing that I think that we've failed to mention with emphasis the last few weeks is, and this isn't entirely on Dart, I don't think, but it is certainly part of it. The delay of games have got to get under control.
So that's something, again, that's where I expect coaching. I'm not saying, that's, but I have a segment for Brian Daboll of let's talk about Brian Daboll decisions, because again, not every episode of a recap. I'm just not coming on every episode of recap being they need to fire them. You guys know, I think they should be fired. And if they do anything to change my mind, then I'll start an episode and say, hey, I don't think these guys should be fired anymore. As we get to the last 4 games of the year, I'm sure that will be leading off our shows most of the time. But I do want to talk about Brian Daboll in-game decisions. We did the challenging the fumble thing. It's stupid. As a fellow hothead who likes to send a message, I kind of I like that, but also that's why I'm never built to be a head coach, because I'm yeah, fucking throw it in their face, challenge.
Well, it's also it's another statistic in him just being bad at challenges.
Disagree. He's actually been a good challenger. I almost made a bad joke. He's been good at challenges, unlike Joe Judge, who had every.
Joe Judge was horrible.
Yeah, he was so bad at challenges. You would think Joe Judge, with the way he coached, he would be great at challenges. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. And I hate to slander Joe Judge, but
No, yeah, but that was definitely one of the more frustrating things. And him being the CEO manager style coach, you'd think that he would just have that stuff on lockdown. But it also feels like sometimes Brian Daboll is challenging things that just like, is the juice even worth this risk? You know what I mean? Like, why are you? Is this really worth it?
Joe Judge only had 2 challenges. He was 0 for 2. This can't be right?
That doesn't sound right to me. I think he also challenged things that were unchallengeable.
Yeah, there was one. I think it was against the Broncos, actually. But anyways, I think he's got a good record on challenges, Brian Daboll. Me and you talked a little about this pre-show, and we disagreed. Down 25 with 3 minutes left. I do not like quarterback power twice in a row. I understand that it led to a score, but if anything, that's about a time of learning. Let Jaxson Dart drop back and throw it. Or if you're really desperate for that touchdown, pound it in. I'm not giving Jaxson Dart unnecessary. He takes more hits than he needs. I'm not putting him under those hits to get a better. This is again where we probably overanalyze the Giants sometimes and everything. But that's where I'm like, are you just trying to stat pad Jaxson Dart's touchdown totals because his touchdown totals are really good? So at the end of the year, be like, look, I had this guy at 25 touchdowns and 13 starts or whatever it ends up being.
Well, I think that's a legitimate conspiracy theory, right? Like I wouldn't throw that away. I'm not saying I like this. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that if you put it up to a vote for me, what I'm going to vote for. What I'm going to say is I think there were about 4 Jaxson Dart runs in this game, 6 runs total, and we're talking about 2 garbage time runs, and that's it. So to me, there are better examples of where he did this to way too much with Daniel Jones. In this instance, I think it's a little bit much ado about nothing. I'm not saying I agree with the calls, but I think, you're talking about one play that was a touchdown, so he really didn't get hit all that hard, and then another play where it didn't work. So it's 2 quarterback power plays. I'm just, of all the things I have to complain about, even with specifically Brian Daboll, with time management and preparation and all of the things that I don't like about Brian Daboll, this to me is super low on the ladder. So at least this example, right? We're talking about 2 plays where, it's arguable if it's really wise to be doing something like this. So, there's an argument to be made that if you're not calling the plays you think have the highest chance of success, that you're sort of giving up. Again, I'm not saying I would vote for this or that I would call this. I'm just saying I just don't know if I care about these 2 plays today.
See, I guess the false starts are probably the biggest thing. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever. It's just with the head coach. And I don't think he's calling bad off. He's not calling the players, but I don't think I've never had a big issue with Brian Daboll's offense. There's been weeks where I've had, week 1, even 2022. I'm like, this is offensively, this was a bad game plan.
Well, also, I don't find myself week to week. Is this even on Brian Daboll or is this on Mike Kafka calling those plays in that situation? Doesn't he call the plays?
Yeah, Mike Kafka calls the plays, yes.
So, are we possibly even blaming Brian Daboll for something we shouldn't?
Fair enough. So, kill Mike Kafka. How would you like to run QB power at the end of the game, Mike Kafka? So, we can close out a little bit and just going into this game, because it's like, all right, they beat the Eagles. The Saints game was a 5 turnover. Since Jaxson Dart started, they beat the Chargers. The Saints game, they were leading in the second half and then just totally just started shitting on themselves. Then they beat the Cowboys or the Eagles, and then they're dominating the Broncos. And I'm like, all right, so what do we get out of this game? We've went 2-2 over a 4-game stretch, but it does feel a little bit different with Dart. And this was the first game where it's just like, yeah, they're better, and we're a bad team. And it was just falling to 2-6 is where it's like that sucks to me. I know I didn't have expectations for this year, but I have a document, Grump, of year of things to tweet throughout the year so I don't forget. And most of them are positive, but they're all every year to year starters for week 1. Just show the difference of a year. in the summer, roster makeup by general manager. Even one is Harambe. Make sure to remember the death of Harambe every year. And then one of them is like first half of the season record. And it's every year. It's been 2-6 or worse outside of 1 year.
I mean, this one shines a little bit differently amongst the others, where you can take some positives, you can take some negatives for sure out of every loss. But I can live with, just being like, yeah, right now the Philadelphia Eagles are a better team. The dagger to this one is Cam Skattebo going down, which is nobody's fault. It just sucks. And that's where it's just like you walk away from this game. It's like, damn it. Just damn it. Like we're not very good, and we keep getting worse as these guys sustain, not just like, oh, he went out with like a neck injury. I don't think that's like ever going to happen with Cam Skattebo. It's going to be a season ender or he's going to play. So it's a shot to the heart because you can't even like get amped on.
They're giving up, like they gave up 300 rushing yards. Like that's one thing too. It's like they just ran it at will. Will. Like they put their running back got injured and they put in their backup and it was the exact same thing. Yeah. So like they're one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL again. They're giving up like 5.8 yards per carry on the year. And I know the 49ers rushing offense hasn't been good this year, but it's like, you know what? I expect Kyle Shanahan to scheme up a great run game and run all over the Giants. And maybe they have one of those one-off games under Shane Bone where they really stop the run, but it still won't matter in the end. So it's just like, this is one of those games where we talk about like, man, I really wish they didn't bring these guys back and start it over. This is just the fruits of one of that.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to hang the banner of, well, they almost beat Denver and they almost beat Dallas, but it's like, that's where coaching on the margins is supposed to give you an advantage. And instead it gave you a disadvantage. It's kind of, you can blame the loss on 5, 6, 7 things, but one of the things that you can blame the losses on are coaching. Dallas, Denver, for sure.
And the way to make up for those like close losses is to go and win more games, where it's like, but like I'm not gonna be at the end of the year, and if they're 5-12, be like, man, but if they just held on against Dallas and Denver, that's 7 games, and maybe if they start, like I'm not doing that, like I'm not doing that with a team that's in 4th year. That's more of an indictment than a defense.
Sure.
Like
Absolutely.
close losses, again, to me are an indictment, not a defense of what's going on. So they're just bad. And there's only so many ways we can talk about how it is. So next week it's the 49ers back at home. Jaxson Dart is undefeated at home. And under Jaxson Dart, anytime you think, we get this feeling, then they surprise us and win. So expect a win next week. But yeah, 2-6, man. And then what's the upcoming schedule? We got 49ers, then Bears, right?
I think that's right. Yeah. I can't flip my calendar from here.
All right. Well, make sure you guys subscribe to the show because we're gonna have some good stuff out this week. Really want to break down Jaxson Dart's performance, but that'll be on the mailbag pod on Wednesday after we watch the film, bro. Maybe talk about Abdul Carter and some of the other things we'll clean up on. You know what we should do? We should do I think for the mailbag, it's finally the rank the top 10 players on the Giants week. I've been putting that one off. That might be the week for that one.
I love that.
But you don't need to ask it because I bookmarked it from last week, so don't feel need to ask that when we put out the mailbag tweet.
You can guarantee if you ask that we won't select your question when I read it. It won't be from you. Yeah. So don't.
All right. So yeah, like and subscribe. We're back on Wednesday. Never quit. Never quit. All right. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.